Hi guys, I'm Reagan Jenkins and here is my author discussion for W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois was born in Great Barrington, Massachusetts on February 23, 1868. Great Barrington was known for being a very low segregation area, and some sources even said that in some parts there was no segregation. Not many African Americans attended college in that time, so Du Bois attending college was a feat in itself, but being one of the very few to receive a scholarship was incredibly surprising. For Du Bois's education, he first attended Fisk University, which is a historically black college in Nashville, Tennessee, and he later received a scholarship to Harvard and completed his second bachelor's degree because credits from Fisk University didn't transfer over. And after he completed his second bachelor's degree and after a year in master's, he began graduate study at University of Berlin and eventually became the first African American to receive a PhD from Harvard University. In his life, he founded and led the Niagara Group, a civil rights activist group, and after this group disbanded, remnants of it inspired the creation of the NAACP, or the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and he had such an important role in the NAACP and ended up staying with them for about 40 years. Other awards in his life included getting the Springer Medal in 1920 and the Lenin Peace Prize in 1959. W.E.B. Du Bois also contributed to society as an author. He wrote poetry, speeches, and books. Amongst his poetry, some of his most popular was The Souls of Black Folk and Litany of Atlanta. The Souls of Black Folk was very popular, and I think this was mainly because it was one of the first published affirmations of Black pride, and it brought up images of defiance and action within the Black community beginning to fight for their rights and fight against the wrongdoing that was part of everyday life. And the Litany of Atlanta was written in response to violence against blacks in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was about 44 lines, so pretty long. And the entire poem begins with Du Bois asking God why there's so much suffering and asking him to stop the suffering, and ends with him not as much asking why this is happening, but asking God to make a change within the world and within society. A big part of W.E.B. Du Bois's message was the philosophy of change in the country and the societal culture, especially how it pertained to Black lives. Du Bois also played a role in the politics at the time. He maintained a firm belief in inspiring the initiative of Black people to make changes themselves through his many works. Some of his speeches even challenged a rival African American activist, Booker T. Washington. And they continued to be pretty fierce rivals throughout both of their lives and throughout the time they were both in their prime of influence on the country. And just a bit about Booker T. Washington. He had a very different philosophy than Du Bois, and this is probably because of the very different culture and history the two had. W.E.B. Du Bois, as mentioned earlier, was born in a very low segregation area, whereas Washington was born into slavery, and this gave Washington a completely different perspective. Du Bois had never personally experienced slavery, which made his philosophy warped, at least in Washington's eyes. And Washington's philosophy was about being an ideal citizen and a very positive member in society, with the main goal of being accepted by white people, and this was an idea very often critiqued by Du Bois, as Du Bois wanted to change society in order to make progress, which continuously drove a wedge in between the two's beliefs and philosophies. And even though that Booker T. Washington was generally accepted by the Black community and by a lot of the white community because he was trying so hard to assimilate, also caused a lot of critique because people almost thought that he was trying to ignore all of the wrongdoing that was happening to the Black community. Towards the end of W.E. Du Bois's life, he was quite clearly left-wing and very political, and this caused him to be disputed to be fired from the University of Atlanta in his teaching position in 1944. It has also been said that his radical views later caused him to resign from the NAACP, and after much scrutiny, he eventually renounced his U.S. citizenship after his passport wasn't renewed and became a citizen of Ghana. However, this didn't last very long, as he died a few years later on August 27, 1963, in the capital of Accra when he was 95 years old. I want to thank you for watching. Here are my references, including websites and the book. Once again, this is Reagan Jenkins for the author discussion on W.E. Du Bois. Thank you.